Artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, digital transformation, Industry 4.0, or maybe I should say Industry 4.5. So many buzzwords, so much emerging technology, and for many, so much overwhelm. Today, I'm talking with someone who's right in the middle of it all. Justin Goldston PhD is a professor of project and supply chain management at Penn State University, where he works closely with the Penn State Sustainability Institute to blend technology into organizational sustainability efforts. Dr. Goldston has over 20 years of experience working with organizations worldwide on business performance improvement, organizational change, and enterprise-wide digital transformation initiatives. He's the author of multiple peer-reviewed journal articles on supply chain management and emerging technologies, of critical success factors in ERP implementations, and is a 5-time TEDx speaker. Dr. Goldston has led and assisted in the development of supply chain management, sustainability, and business analytics programs at Georgetown University, Texas A&M University, the IUBH University of Applied Sciences in Germany, and North Carolina Wesleyan College. He is also an executive on the International Standards Board at the International Supply Chain Education Alliance and has evaluated doctoral programs for the Department of Higher Education while serving on the Management Advisory Board at various higher education institutions. Justin, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Joe.
Well, you've got quite the resume there, I must say. So before we get into it, I was hoping you could tell our listeners a little bit about your journey and how you wound up inside this world of supply chain management.
So I would say that a lot of people, I may be an exception, where a lot of people within the supply chain discipline said that they didn't have any formal education within supply chain management. I was a computer science major my first semester at North Carolina A&T, and I was on a baseball scholarship. And I've told this story before. And in the second semester we would travel out of town. So we had mandatory computer labs on Wednesdays. So I went to the dean of the program and said, we travel for baseball on Wednesdays. I can't have these computer labs. He said, well, make a choice between baseball or computer science. I said, you're not paying for my scholarship, so I'm out. Yeah, so one of my teammates was in the supply chain program at North Carolina A&T, and we would get additional scholarship money on top of our scholarship, on top of our baseball scholarship. So as a broke college student, absolutely. So as I began within the actual course content focused on supply chain management, I said, this stuff sounds familiar. And because my father was a plant manager, so I used to work in the factory, count inventory, things like that. So I get it, so I could dig it. so I continue on, and the rest is history from a supply chain management perspective. I went on to be a management consultant, primarily working with manufacturers and distributors, and then went to the Penn State University to get my master's in supply chain, and I've been loving every minute of it since then.
That's great. Well, for those who are listening here, we're recording this during the final weeks of 2020, and it's been quite the year for all of us. And
thank God.
Yeah, no kidding, huh? Ready to just kind of charge forward into the new year. Not that the December to January is it's more symbolic than anything, but
right,
we're going in the right direction, hopefully, right? So, but for someone working smack in the middle of supply chain management, I imagine you've seen some disruptions this year that you probably couldn't have seen coming necessarily, or maybe you could have if you're some kind of prophet. But it's been a wild year on that front too. I know from working with so many manufacturers, and so I'm just kind of curious. Could you speak to what you've observed during 2020 and how it's going to change things for manufacturers as we, fingers crossed, move into a post-COVID world sometime in this new year?
I want to keep it on a positive note. We've had a lot of negativity with the pandemic. I've been speaking with leaders of organizations. I've been speaking with researchers within higher education ever since March. And I first wanted to start off by saying that I thank all the service members for their service, within the healthcare industry, within the supply chain industry. because there's a lot of people behind the scenes that have been doing a lot of amazing things. So we've seen some good things come out of this. We have seen people coming together. We have seen a lot of empathy, which is good. But my hope is that we can continue with all of this once we emerge out of this pandemic. But pre-COVID, we had a lack of trust among business partners within business, not just supply chain, just in business in general. And this pandemic has brought everyone together, and we've seen some good things come out of this. We have seen some good opportunities come out of this. From a technological perspective, we have seen the acceleration of these emerging technologies in terms of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and things like that, where artificial intelligence and machine learning has had a positive impact on finding the vaccine, which is being distributed from a supply chain perspective as we speak. So I've seen some good things come out of this, and I hope that we can continue with these amazing things going into 2021. But I am glad 2020 is over because it is symbolic.
I think we all are. Well, Justin, I was listening to you speak recently on another podcast, and the host asked you a question related to Industry 4.0. I don't even remember exactly what she had asked you, but you kind of immediately jumped in and commented that, Industry 4.0 is now Industry 4.5. And I'm curious if you could kind of unpack that statement for us and talk about what that means as we go to Industry 4.5.
I've been getting that question. So again, another positive thing to the pandemic is I've been invited to a number of international conferences, given that these international conferences are now virtual. And I have been talking about Industry 4.5 often. And I've been getting a lot of questions on it. But my reasoning, my justification is that Industry 4.0 was introduced, the term Industry 4.0, the vision of Industry 4.0 was introduced in Germany about 10 years ago, right? We were talking about smart factories. We were talking about the Internet of Things. But we did not have any mention of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and blockchain. Now, people argue that blockchain is not going to take off in the industry, and I would say it's not going to take off in the next 3 or 4 years, but it's on the horizon. And it's on the horizon because once we have had the industry-wide adoption of artificial intelligence and machine learning, which we're seeing now. And if you don't adopt that solution, you're going to get left behind, in my opinion, right? Because we have seen the positive impacts to this solution. We are addressing the cybersecurity concerns right now. We are addressing the bias right now. We are addressing the trust right now. So we're continuing to improve the solution, but my argument was that we had no mention of these technologies that are going to transform the industry. We said that IoT transformed the industry. I think that artificial intelligence is going to be bigger than this IoT phenomenon, in my opinion. So that's why I refer to the term of Industry 4.5 instead of Industry 4.0.
Now that makes sense. Kind of an evolution and more technology getting layered on.
I didn't get a 5. I didn't get an Industry 5.0. Okay.
Yeah, we'll save that for a few more years, maybe.
That was a stretch. That would be a stretch.
Yeah.
Say 4.5.
Yeah. All right. No, I like that. Well, I know that you're filled with knowledge in the realms of automation, robotics, AI, machine learning, blockchain. Like this is kind of your world, and just as all of these technologies continue to emerge and evolve and create opportunity, they also create fear for many about what will happen to jobs. And I think there's sometimes a misconception about maybe what it's going to do to the workforce in some ways, at least. And so I'm just kind of curious, what's your perspective on how the workforce will be impacted, or maybe I should say continue to be impacted as these technologies become more and more advanced and more prominent in the manufacturing industry?
I say often in my conference presentations that AI is truly augmented intelligence. What I mean by that is that you're around my age. So people my age always say that. I always tell them that, when we talk about AI, we're not talking about Will Smith and iRobot. We're years away from that, But so we're not going to in the coming years, we're not going to have robots making their own decisions. You still need humans to program these AI solutions. Right? We still don't have the trust of these solutions where we still have to confirm. They're only AI is only a tool. AI is only a tool. I'll say it one more time. AI is only a tool. That's all it is. Right? To assist us into decision making for manufacturing organizations. So that's why I refer to it as augmented intelligence. Machine learning is only a tool. It will only assist us in making those managerial decisions. You also have business process automation, which is going to assist us in moving away from those automated, repetitive, monotonous tasks. Right. So when it comes from a workforce perspective, because a large majority of the workforce is going to retire in the next few years, organizations are going to have a difficult time finding employees that want to work these labor intensive jobs. The students graduating high school, the students graduating college, they don't want to work in a factory. They want the automation. So because of that workforce gap, organizations are going to have to depend on business process automation, robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning to perform the task that's currently being done by workers. So one thing I always talk about is that the workers have to embrace this technology. It's going to make their jobs easier, and it's going to create more opportunities for them. Perfect example. I did a panel discussion with an executive from the insurance industry, and he said those individuals who used to walk on the roofs of the Home Depots and Lowe's to insure those buildings, he said literally risking their lives, they now fly drones. Because drones are using technology to see the insurability of those buildings. They were trained to be drone pilots, and now they're being paid more. He said we didn't fire a single person. The people who are rocking on those roofs, they're making more money,
and they're safer, right? They're safer. They're happier, probably in a lot of ways.
And they're safer, and because there's a need for drone pilots, they have to pay them more, so they stay.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's an interesting perspective. I've had this conversation with a number of people. I'm thinking of even a few on this podcast. I had Tracy Hansen of Pro Glove. I had Gary Konarska, who's the president of the American Welding Society, and we got into these topics in both of those conversations. And I think that there's this fear out there that you see new technology coming and people immediately think I'm going to get replaced by technology or a robot. And I think what the pattern that I seem to be seeing and hearing from people is that it's not that people are being replaced, but it's that their roles are being shifted and efficiencies are being created. Gary Konarska at American Welding Society talked a lot about the sort of the skilled labor gap that is coming. And you just hit on it too. People are retiring. Mm-hmm. Young people entering the workforce they don't want to do the dirty jobs. And so what are we going to do? The work has to get done, right? So That's kind of, it seems to be a pattern of things I'm hearing, that we should be embracing this technology and figuring out how to integrate it as opposed to being scared of it and worrying that it's going to take jobs. And what's your response to that?
I think it's all about embracing the technology because it's here. If you don't embrace it, I said in the TED talk, in one of my TED talks where, I talked about MySpace, you know, I tell people in the industry, people who remember MySpace, I said, don't get MySpace just by being terrified and afraid of technology. Don't get MySpace. Don't get Blockbuster.
Yeah.
Now, don't get Redbox.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I mean, this applies anywhere. Like, but nobody's riding around in carriages being pulled by horses on the street these days, or communicating via typewriters, right? It's the technology is here. So we need we need to own it and figure out how to use it to our advantage, right?
Because it's only gonna I see people will argue because they'll call out the two or three breaches or two or three situations where AI failed, but they don't call out the thousands of successes. They don't call out the positive impacts it had on the pandemic. It takes years to even find a viable solution, a viable solution for these things, and they found it in what, months? So I think that it's gonna change. It's gonna change the world, and it, like I said before, I can't say it enough that it's here. It's here. We have to embrace it, and we have to find a way to democratize this solution. We have to find a way to democratize AI. We have to find a way to continue to use AI for good, because we've seen with technology, people always try to find malicious ways to leverage to use technology. We've seen it in AI, So we just have to kind of have those task force in place. We have to, cybersecurity is even more important right now, So that's just one thing we have to look out for, especially from a manufacturing perspective.
All good points. Well, Justin, for someone who doesn't have the expertise or knowledge to implement some of these technologies you've been touching on today, how do they get started? What are initial steps? Where do they go for information?
I would say before you even consider these solutions, these emerging technologies, in most cases, I always tell people to check your data. Check your data because all of these technologies depend on the data. If your data is not accurate, that implementation is not going to be successful. So step number one is get your house in order. What I mean by getting your house in order, check your data, ensure your data is clean, cleanse your data, and then the next step is to understand your current state digital transformation maturity. Are you moving from Excel to AI? Are you moving from QuickBooks to AI? If so, I wouldn't. I'd suggest we take some baby steps. So you have to assess what your AI maturity or what your digital transformation maturity would be, and then create a AI roadmap, if you will, or a digital transformation roadmap. And that's the initial steps. Once you identify what that future state vision is going to be, then you get the education on that solution. It may be from Excel to an ERP application. It may be QuickBooks to an ERP application. It may be, okay, I'm going to integrate AI into my ERP application. Now, most of the larger software providers, the N4s, the SAPs, the Oracles have already started to integrate AI into their base ERP solutions. And we're only going to see more of it emerging. They're acquiring these artificial intelligence organizations, and they're including it within their base solutions, because that's kind of the only way they're going to be able to compete in the future. Let's face it. So it's here, and I think that some of your existing solutions that you currently have can have these AI solutions already integrated if you're in that ERP maturity, within your current organization.
Are there any resources you'd recommend? I always try to make this actionable for people, getting off this call saying, all right, or off of this, listening to this podcast and thinking, I need to start learning more about this, at least educating myself. Anywhere you would point them?
YouTube University.
Yeah.
YouTube is an amazing starting point. So some of the conferences I spoke at have already uploaded and published some of my presentations on YouTube. There are a number of MIT presentations that are on YouTube. There are a number of Wharton presentations that are on YouTube of presentation, and surprisingly, they don't get many views. It's not entertainment, it's education. So they don't get many views, but they are absolutely amazing. So for education purposes.
Great. Well, that's good to know. Well, Justin, is there anything I didn't ask you about today that you'd like to touch on or add to this conversation?
So I just would like to thank everyone for listening. I do want to let you know that I do have 2 books coming out. So one is going to be artificial intelligence focused on sustainable practices. So if you've heard of the United Nations Sustainability Development Goals, I'm writing a book to discuss how we can leverage artificial intelligence to address all 17 Sustainability Development Goals. That will be coming out around the August timeframe, as well as sustainable project management, where we're going to talk about project management, but for organizations that are implementing sustainable practices. So maybe we could have another episode on that discussion. Yeah,
I like it. No, that's really exciting. Not 1 book, but 2 books on the horizon. Probably not too many people can say that's the case. So. Congrats on what
very excited. Very excited.
We'll keep our eye out for that. Well, great, Justin. This was a really good conversation. I appreciate you doing this. Can you tell our audience the best way to get in touch with you or learn more about what you're up to?
Yeah, so you can follow me on LinkedIn, Justin Goldston. That's the best place to find me. I often post topics and articles in the area of sustainability, artificial intelligence, supply chain management, among other things, social responsibility. So please connect with me. I'm always open and willing to have a discussion.
Perfect. Well, Justin, thanks again for taking the time to do this today. And for the rest of you, I hope to catch you on the next episode of The Manufacturing Executive.